Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto. Welcome back to Lizard of Doom. I am Max. This is a Gundam. We all know T'au are based on Gundam. But what if I made a T'au literally based on a Gundam? There is an idea that's been floating around in my head for a while. Let me explain it to you. There is a thing in the Warhammer 40k universe called a Gue'vesa. I think I'm saying that right. A Gue'vesa. This is a human T'au. Now T'au, the race, are the little blue goat fishmen, yes. A Gue'vesa is a human that has joined or is born into the T'au Empire because they are friendly, or as close to friendly as you get in 40k. What if humans were given T'au technology and built their own Riptide as a kind of mix of technologies, and for something that fitted them, that they could use on the battlefield better than these hoofed mechs? Humans have feet. Proof. Humans using a mech on hooves seems a bit irresponsible. They're gonna fall over. So what if I made a mech with feet and humanness? That's a Gundam. I'm using a Gundam to make a Riptide. So subscribe for my Gundam Riptide and let's get in. Oh no, we're not getting into it yet. Tickle my like button because, oh yeah. And then we'll get into it. Let's go. This Gundam was only £30. A Riptide is about £70. That is a hell of a saving if you can just use the thing it's based off of. The instructions were all in Japanese, so it wasn't very helpful. All the pieces were numbered and then the sprues were lettered. That was helpful. Talking of sprues, have a look how many of these boys there are. It is ridiculous. This is almost as many sprues as come in the Leviathan box for all of those miniatures. The coloured plastic was nice, however I found it a little bit softer than I'm used to for normal miniatures. This made it a bit of an issue to remove mould lines as I ended up digging into the plastic a little bit. But the instructions were a little confusing. Maybe it's because I don't speak Japanese, or maybe it's just because there's a million parts just to make one piece. But what I did quite like were these bits where you clip them off the sprue and they had a ball socket already built in. How the hell do you do that with plastic injection moulding? That was very clever. Ball sockets and hinges already built in. These little wires were interesting as well. There was this more firm kind of metal middled plastic outer normal kind of electrical wire that I'm used to, that I've seen before. And then there was this more floppy kind of nylon tubing with a nice texture on it. This was used to make the cables. You put the more rigid one inside of the floppy one with the nice texture and pop them in where all the cables on like the hydraulics and stuff would go on this mech. There were very specific lengths you had to cut these to, like 10mm, 17mm, and there wasn't a lot left over after. So if you are doing this, be very accurate with your cutting. There was a little bit left over, but if you mess one up, you're going to want a little bit for a spare. It took me a few hours to make this leg alone, but it had loads of moving parts. And you can see when I turn it around in a second, on the back there is the cabling. This was enjoyable to make this, but there's more pieces in this one leg than there are in an entire Riptide. It's unnecessary, quite frankly, but I don't know if I'm going to annoy a lot of Gundam specialists here. Why are there so many pieces? After most of my evening of building, I had got to the point where the frame was made. The Gundams come in these kind of posable frames and then you can put the armour on afterwards. You can pose them with the armour on as well. This is the bare skeleton of this miniature. It's kind of odd to see, but it is good to get an idea for posing for how you want to make it later on. Everything bends, everything flexes. This thing has unlimited possibilities compared to GW monopose kits. I roughed out a kind of base layout that I was happy with and managed to armour a leg before it was getting too late, and I had to give up for a day and come back in the morning. Although that armoured leg is looking tasty. The next day I continued to armour this boy. he had loads of different bits, and in Gundam you don't really paint the miniatures. The coloured plastic is the colour of the Gundam. That hobby is more about the building than anything else, and kind of posing and displaying afterwards as well. So apologies, Gundam enthusiast, for what I'm about to do. This was a hell of a build. It took me 12 hours to put this all together. I think it's because of my inexperience building Gundam, but yeah, do not underestimate it. This is my first one ever built. If you build one, it's not like a Warhammer kit. It's not. This thing, according to Reddit, is almost exactly the same height as a Riptide. I don't own a separate Riptide, but this will do. Reddit, I believe you this once. It also has weapons that represent the same things as a Riptide. A twin-linked rocket launcher, that can be that. And a big old burst weapon, that can be the gun. I like my proxies to be somewhat WYSIWYG, so they're not a surprise when they fire off something weird. I like this boy, but you can see a little bit of green stuff on his helmet. That's because I didn't put these two little Gundam-looking antennas on. They were too Gundam and not Tau enough. If I'd have put that on, it would have been definitely Gundam, but I want to make this my Tau human Riptide. So I did my best to kind of resculpt it with a bit of green stuff, fill in the hole. And yeah, I think I pulled it off. It looks alright. I'm happy with it. The pose looks badass. He looks like he's finishing off someone that he's downed. And yeah, the next shot you'll see Chaos Cultist for scale. This is a big dude. This is perfect. And the next step will be getting some paint on this guy. I will be priming through the airbrush because it is raining outside using this Vallejo black primer. This went on very nicely. I didn't have any problems with the plastic. Maybe I should have given it a little bath first, but it stuck. Everything seemed fine. This felt sacrilegious. Sorry, Gundam people. I maybe shouldn't have done this to, you know, one of your icons, but needs must. This is now a Warhammer miniature, not a Gundam. I have said Gundam so many times in this video, I'm going to try and limit that from now on. From there I went up through his army painter triad, which I believed was quite close to the Tau kind of beigey colours. Stop painting them white, G-dubs. I want beige Tau. They were always beige when I was a kid. Mine are beige. These get a little bit yellow, these colours, but I think they're suitable. They're a good alternative to the GW ones, as I like the Army Painter airbrush triads. I do think it's a decent system, and this is where the first one's at. I kind of got it all over. I did try not to go up underneath and let the black primer do its job of keeping shadows in there while I'm using the airbrush. And then after that, it's kind of a zenithal step up through the next two, leading up to small areas of that very light yellow colour. It does look a little bit Bumblebee at the end of this. And as a giant mech, Transformers was something I was trying to avoid, but that's my choice of colour. And I think at the end, this does look very Tau. I also did a bit of chipping after this with some Rhinox hide from GW Paints, and this was going to be accented by a bit of metallic chipping. But then I looked at the actual Tau models and realised there's not a lot of metal on them. There's a few brass bits here and there, but I don't think that Tau mechs are made of metal the same way Imperial mechs are. Maybe it's some kind of plastic alloy. So this Rhinox hide chipping will look like it's down to its bare plastic alloy or maybe ceramic under material. I don't quite know what these things are. I'm not a big lore guy. I just make things I think is cool, and I hope you think they is cool too. I kind of focused the sponging on the edges where things would catch and wear and paint would chip off, and I was left with a nicely battle damaged robot. I like how this is coming along. I feel the lighting from the triad is working well. The battle damage is adding a bit more kind of texture to this otherwise very smooth mech. But I had done something wrong. I had made a mistake. See, Tau in these kind of original sandy colours have brown panels on their armour. I had already sponged on chipping without doing these brown panels, so now I had to go back and do these brown panels and then sponge on more chipping. It's my own fault. The way I had planned to do this brown was with Cygol Brown contrast paint, but not straight from the pot. I was going to mix it with a little bit of contrast medium. This makes it flow better than water and makes it still act like a contrast paint. This duo was going to be the way I was going to put these brown panels on, and hopefully keep the lighting I had put in the miniature with the Army Painter Triad system. I did this all over, picking out little bits of panels, ones that were easier to get to. I didn't want to make it too hard for myself, and I did not like the results. I found it to be a little bit patchy, a little bit coffee stainy. I've worked a lot with contrast, but I thought, I am half-arsing this. Why don't I just paint it properly? The Army Painter Triad system lighting, that can go. I've got enough of that all over the rest of the model to then paint it properly with some Mournfang Brown. This complemented the yellow colour a little better, as it was a nice kind of warm brown rather than this dirty brown. And the loss of lighting wasn't really an issue. The rest of the model conveyed that the light's coming from above. And I was about to give this a little bit of a highlight as well. The way I was going to do this is edge highlighting. This will be enough to give those armour panels that are now brown a hint of light. And again, to make it easier on myself, I was only going to edge highlight the top areas of these panels. Why make it harder than it needs to be? Games Workshop, you edge highlight too much. Why is the bottom of everything catching the light? I had also replaced the Rhinox hide chipping with more sponging over the top of this Mournfang Brown base. The way I was going to do this Mournfang Brown highlight was with the next step up that Games Workshop suggest, which is Scrag Brown. Only putting this along the top edges of all the panels where they would catch the light. Not taking too long on this. I also did edge highlights on the black areas, if you've noticed. I've also painted the black areas. This was just done with a Baden black. The edge highlight for that was Storm Vermin Fur, just to give a little bit of light towards the edges, make it look like it wasn't just opaque black areas. Once I'd done that, the body was done really. It was kind of there, apart from some weathering steps at the end. After the main bodywork, it was then time for lenses. Talking to my Patreons in my Discord server. By the way, the Discord is free to join. There are paid sections which you get if you then become a Patreon, but that will be down there below, so click that link and come and have a chat with us. But anyway, I was talking to some Patreons and they suggested a kind of a teal colour to go with these brown colours, and yeah, have a look at what comes next. It does look very nice, very kind of bright and vibrant in amongst this drab, browny, sandy colour. The first step towards this was basing everywhere I was going to do this kind of bright teal lens with a white, because I was going to use contrast paint on this bit as well. This was to get the nice vibrancy of the blue contrast I was going to use over the top of these areas. I did these little headlights on his chest. I also did his eyes in this colour, because they will be lenses too. A thematic blue was the contrast I was going with. This stuff is bright. If you like nice bright blues, this is the one for you. And a little top corner highlight of blue horror at the end. I also did a little white dot on that blue horror afterwards, just to bring it up even more and look like the light was reflecting through these lenses. Nice suggestion, Patreon. But it was suggested for the base by a Patreon member, but I used it on his eyes and lenses. I searched everywhere for Tamiya panel liner. I've seen it used before in videos and I like the look of it. I went to 3 different miniature stores and less specific hobby stores as well. It wasn't there. But what was there was AK's version of panel liner, which when I used it, it's just streaking grime. It's just streaking grime. So I didn't use it as accurately as I would have liked to with the Tamiya panel liner, because that flows very nicely. But this, have a look. This is the product in question. I got the one for grey and blue camouflage because it has kind of a grey feel to it, and I thought that might separate it nicely and look like there's some dust and dirt in the cracks without making it look too muddy because it's already brown. I, as accurately as I felt like, added it with a very small brush to all the cracks and separations in the armour. This was no mean feat. Gundams are all panels. After that, I pulled it back off with some spirits on a cotton bud, but I used very little. You can see I got it off on the table at the start there and used not very much spirit on this cotton bud at all, as I didn't want to pull it everywhere. This was targeted streaking grime. It added a kind of dusty, older feel to this miniature, which I like. But this thing's been in the battle for a little while, and that affected my choices later when it comes to the transfers. Yes, I said transfers. Not the ones that came in the Gundam kit though, T'au ones. This is what it looks like after the panel liner / streaking grime, and yeah, everything stands out a little bit more. Everything looks separated. You can read this model a lot better now. It is not just flat panels everywhere that are similar colours. What do you think? Do you think Tamiya panel liner would have been better? Or do you think this is pretty good? Let me know in the comments. And as I said, transfers. I'd ordered some old T'au transfers on eBay for £3, not bad. This was going to be the finishing touch to this T'au Gundam model and to move it more towards T'au. I was very excited to get these on, and get them on I did. Here he is, a little one on his chest, one on his gun, one underneath the one on his chest, one on his shield, a nice big T'au symbol there, really pulling that in. A couple of bits on the side of his legs and on the rocket launcher on the back. I didn't want to go too overboard. I felt this was enough to mark this as T'au. This is all I needed. There's a T'au symbol on the weird tech shield of the actual Riptide model, so putting one on his little riot shield here really helped denote this as a human Gue'vesa T'au Riptide. I would later then scratch these with a scalpel to give it some battle damage and make it look like it'd been through hell. So the next step, and the only step left, is the base. While I quickly blast through that, let me give you some lizard lore about these Gue'vesa. People of Amika, it is I, your planet's high noble, Lord Potentia. I hope this transmission finds you well. As you all know, we have been abandoned for some time by the Imperium of Man. They have left us to rot, and we have held strong. We have not been influenced like our neighbours on Discar. We have held firm in belief that Saviour will come. And it is on this day, people, that I am proud to tell you that our prayers have been answered. We now have a new friend in the galaxy. We have been alone for so long, but no more. A friendly hand has reached out amongst the stars, and we will be joining them. They have blessed us with new technology, not seen by the likes of man in this region before. We will now be part of the T'au Empire. We will form our own fighting force and start heading amongst the stars once again. This is a proud day for me, and should be for you too, citizen. For the greater good, we will spread friendship and freedom amongst the stars. We will extend a hand to those less fortunate, as we have been in recent generations. We know what it's like to be alone, but we are alone no more. We are connected. We are connected to a greater good, bigger than yourselves, common people, and bigger than myself. We will form our own regiments with the tech provided by these saviours, and the regiments will be the proudest thing this planet Amika has produced in centuries. So enroll today, citizen, for yourselves, for me, and for the greater good. This fighting force will henceforth be known as. So now this is up to you. You get to name this human civilization of T'au and kind of give them a little bit of backstory. If I revisit the T'au, I will read out a winner as kind of the official lizard lore in the next T'au human video. Thank you to my Patreons. They will be over the reveal shots coming in a second. You can join Patreon. The link is up there. Oh, I hurt my shoulder. I'm getting old. Don't laugh at me. The link's up there. If you like the project I've done here, you can help support me on Patreon down below, because YouTube do not give me a lot of ad revenue. Remember, it's not a pile of shame, it's a pile of future fun. See you Ow. See you next time, kids.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to work, cause my boss is a jerk, and I'm not even that paid. I need a change in my life, cause I don't feel alive, and there's nothing that makes me happy. Hold my beer for a minute, I'm about to quit my job, cash in for a ticket. I'm going on a trip and I don't plan to visit. I'm gonna stay there till I feel like I'm winning, and this is just the beginning. I need a big change, help me feel like living. I need a big swing, home runs I'm hitting, and I'll never look back, moving on till I get it all. And we all got dreams, we all want things, but what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be?